boys and girls? Your boy is back with the NFL For the Goals Forward podcast. I'm your host. Here are my boys, Flipside and Wazatov. What's up, gentlemen? How y'all feeling tonight?
Feeling good, man. I'm not too excited about this week of the Pro Bowl, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's still football, I guess. So.
Yeah, who is? Pro Bowl hasn't been exciting in 10 years, but yeah. How you feeling, Waz?
I'm feeling just dandy, man, after last week.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
I'm feeling just dandy, and I get to hear people. Well, a little bit upset. I got a little bit of upset about how people are trashing my boy Jimmy G, but other than that, I'm not feeling that.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, before we go any further, we got to clap it up. Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs for making it back to the Super Bowl for the first time in 50 years, and clap it up for the 49ers making it back to the Super Bowl for the first time in 7 years. Man. And all right, just a recap of the AFC Championship. That game went pretty much exactly the way that I thought it was going to go. Wow, because the thing is, you need more than just you. The thing is that the whole second half of that game pretty much depended on how Ryan Tannehill was going to act. It depended on if he stepped up to the plate or not, because it's like, okay, now they're starting to stuff the run. Now Derrick Henry's starting to, get his momentum slowed down. And it's like, okay, we need a plan B. And that plan B never came to fruition. That plan B never happened. And I think it's safe to say that Patrick Mahomes, boy, he's a bigger problem than people thought he was. I mean, I already knew Patrick Mahomes was a problem, but he showed off in the AFC Championship. He really did. And the thing is, the weapons, I mean, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins, they all showed off too. And, and the thing is, especially Sammy Watkins, like, he stepped up in the second half. He really did step up in the second half. But, like I said, that game pretty much went the way that I thought it was going to go. Nothing really surprised me. I figured it was going to be just a little bit more of a high-scoring game. The thing is, I almost called it. I said this final score is going to be 31-27 Chiefs. So I was close. But, yeah. But anyway, Flip, what was your thoughts on the AFC Championship?
I thought the Titans could have pulled it off. I thought they were in line. But the thing is, the Chiefs were ready. They tested that offensive line and they succeeded. Frank Clark was on a mission to stop Derrick Henry, and he succeeded in doing it. And once the Chiefs pulled away, it was bad to kind of watch Tannehill try to throw him back in that game.
Yeah,
we knew it wasn't going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. I think this kind of exposed to the Titans that they definitely need a quarterback. They can't rely on Tannehill to manage the game. But congrats to Derrick Henry. He had a hell of an offseason. Postseason, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to him. But Patrick Mahomes, man, that man he was on a mission. And like you guys were saying, I think you guys said last game, his leg wasn't fully healed, but he showed us this game that his legs were good to go, because when he ran that ball to the end zone for that one touchdown, I think it was in the first quarter, he was zipping and spinning on him.
He looked like somebody just covered him in bacon grease and they couldn't catch him. He was slippery as hell.
Yeah, he was real slippery. He wasn't looking like Lamar fast, but
he was looking hard to tackle. He wasn't hard to catch. He was hard to tackle. So, yeah.
There's some poor tackling, though. There was that touchdown run. I don't know what.
Yeah, he should have been tackled. He somehow pulled it up. So props to him. But,
yeah.
Yeah, once the Chiefs get going, you can't really stop them. Like I was saying last week, they just need to keep with the Chiefs, and I thought they could have pulled it off, but the run game, it wasn't clicking, and once they got behind Tannehill, just couldn't throw him back into the game. So it came down downhill from there.
Right.
But when they took that 10-0 lead, I thought, okay, this is it. Like, how do you just keep up with them? Like,
no.
Mahomes is going to get that ball out there, so you just keep up.
But you got to remember, you got to keep into account, it's been like this all season. The Kansas City Chiefs start off slow, and then they build their way up.
That's what I was thinking. Like, they start off, that's why you get that 10-0 lead. When they had that 10-0 lead, I'm thinking, okay, now you just match touchdown for touchdown with these guys.
Yeah.
Because no one else has been able to stop them.
Right.
But the Chiefs were the one team that they stopped. And I mean, think about all the defenses that they've gone against in this postseason.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did you really think the Chiefs' defense of all defenses were the ones to stop the Titans?
No. Mm-mm.
So, yeah, shout out to the Chiefs' defense because they did their job.
Yeah.
They definitely did their job, and they kept that team in check.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Waz, what do you think? Good Chiefs or bad Titans?
No, good Chiefs for sure. The Titans, they at least look like they belong in the AFC Championship. You know, They actually had the Chiefs on the ropes, albeit just in the first half. But but Kansas City again, like we know, that offense is so potent, and I think again, Mahomes had a hell of a game. You could argue this game, even though you could argue this game was almost as good as the previous game. He didn't throw as many touchdowns, but that run, everything felt like everything was on full display. He had like 3 or 4 like incredible plays, but then obviously that run was just incredible. He has again. I think he's really making his mark this year. Obviously, we're on pace. We're on he set it a precedent to have one of the greatest like starts to a career ever.
Yeah.
To have the season, to have the MVP season he had last year, although he got injured this year, playing the way he played in the game he's been in, and then leading this franchise to this moment now in the Super Bowl with how he played, how he's been playing in the postseason is absolutely ridiculous. Like this could be, the greatest postseason run that quarterback's ever had, if not already. We just have to seal the deal in 2 weeks. But I'm not gonna. I mean, the Titans. Again, if Derrick Henry didn't run for 150, I didn't think they were going to be able to win. But they kept it closer than I thought they would. Granted, if you told me Derrick Henry was only going to run for 69 yards, I would have thought it would be more of a blowout. But they kind of, they played really well. I'm not sure what the Chiefs were doing. They were stacking the box like hell.
Yeah.
But it was just odd. I was impressed. I mean, Tannehill didn't play Tannehill didn't really play a full game. He just didn't play the game that's going to be able to keep up with the Chiefs offense. Like what was alluding to. Can't have someone like him in this kind of a shootout game. If the team if the opposing team, the Titans defense can limit them to like under 30, then probably can maybe get into a game and win. But this team putting up 30, I don't think Tannehill the quarterback is need to get out there to help put up at least 30 plus. So
right.
This is just terrific. Chiefs, the Titans, again, it looked like an interesting matchup. The Titans kind of built a little bit to keep the ball away from, Chiefs a little bit, but the Chiefs did well with what they had, with the time they had. So I gotta give them credit. I think they played better than I thought about.
Yeah.
I can't remember what prediction I had. I know I'm pretty sure I had the Chiefs, but it was again solely based on the quarterback, and I couldn't go against someone like home. It was just amazing to watch. But kudos to the Titans. I think they're maybe a piece or two away. But this is just incredible Chiefs that offense.
Right, and and if you ask me, the Titans, if you watch the game and the way they played, they didn't do anything wrong. They played the game the way they were supposed to play. They played to their strength. They didn't really do anything wrong. It's just that the Chiefs they executed better. They were just a better team that day, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, they just got to. What the thing is that the Titans just got to take what they saw back to the drawing board. You're right, just add a couple of pieces. Maybe Mariota will get his act together. Maybe they need something else. Maybe they need a couple more pieces, whatever. But thing is, like, I feel like they got because the thing is, 2 years ago in the wild card weekend, the Chiefs actually lost to the Titans, and that victory for the Titans, that victory for the Chiefs in the AFC Championship made that loss all the more sweeter. So, yeah, so that the Chiefs, they were the thing is the Chiefs, they were hungry for that one. So that's something that you really do got to give to them. And like I said, the Titans, they didn't do anything wrong. The only thing they did wrong was they just got outplayed. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but the penalties in this game were kind of kept to a minimum too. There was like one or two big ones, but nothing really too big. But for the most part, the referees let them play, and that's the way that playoff football is supposed to be played. Let the guys play. But yeah, overall, that was a pretty good game. That's probably the better game out of the two. Now we're going to go to the NFC Championship, which I will humbly admit that I was wrong about. I said the final score was going to be 34-31 Packers. No. I said it was going to be 30-28 Packers. And I'll be damned. The Packers, they waited too little, too late to get their act together. I don't know if that was just the fact that they weren't ready, or the thing is, of course, it's playoff football. You got to step in there ready. If you're not ready, it's playoff football. If you ain't ready, then you need to get the hell off the field. You need to go home. But I don't know if that first loss got to them, or if the pressure is like, okay, we got embarrassed by San Francisco last time. Like the pressure's on, and people are expecting Superman Aaron Rodgers to just come out there and just start gunslinging. People are like, well, Jimmy G can't gunsling with Aaron Rodgers, but guess what? With the way that they are playing, he doesn't need to. He didn't need to gunsling with Aaron Rodgers. So thing is, their defense, San Francisco's defense and their running game did it, for them to the point where they didn't need to turn it into a shootout type of game. And even if they did, guess what? He only had 2 targets the whole time. Only 2 targets that he had the whole game was Devontae Adams and Jimmy Graham. So yeah, the thing is, if you look at it on paper, the Packers actually were kind of supposed to. They kind of were supposed to lose that game. They kind of were underdog going into that. But I just trusted Aaron Rodgers more than Jimmy G. And of course, there's always some kind of foolery when it comes to penalties, especially in the fourth quarter. But we didn't. I'm glad that we didn't see that. Like this was just a matter of big fish eats little fish. And the 49ers, they shut me up, man. They proved me wrong. But you know what? To be honest, I'm kind of glad they did, because now we get to see an amazing Super Bowl between the Niners and the Chiefs. But Flip, what was your thoughts on the NFC Championship in the Packers-Niners game?
It's like I thought it would go. The Packers got work on offense. Yeah, it was a bad match for that team. It was a strong defensive line that was tearing through their offense. They couldn't get started at all. Got ran on for 200+ yards in the first half. Raheem Mostert, man, that dude, he just, I don't know. The Packers had no answer for that offense. Like I was saying before, the 49ers, they basically have 7 offensive linemen.
Yeah.
George Kittle and Kyle Juszczyk are basically offensive linemen. And those dudes are really good at what they do.
Oh, yeah.
So the Packers, they just had no answer for it. And then they let off the gas. Even in the second half, even when the Packers tried to mount that comeback, they had a nice moment where Devontae Adams and Richard Sherman got some good yardage. Shout out to Darrell Reeves.
Oh, yeah. And we're going to talk about that in a second with the whole Darrell Reeves, Richard Sherman, and Antonio Cromartie thing that was going on. We'll talk about that in a second. But, yeah.
Yeah, but, the 49ers, they were the better team. The Packers had no answer for them, and they let them pull ahead too much, and the 49ers didn't let go of their neck. Unfortunately for Aaron Rodgers, he can't, do everything. The defense has to step up. So, yeah.
All right, Waz, what were your thoughts on the NFC Championship?
That was total, utter domination. Just exactly what I predicted. That's exactly how I felt it was. There wasn't any sort of change that occurred. Like I said, Packers really didn't add any pieces from the preseason game till now that seemingly would make a difference in my line. And there was no injuries I was worried about before China. If anything, we were more at full strength. And again, Mostert, I wasn't expecting that kind of game from Mostert. That was incredible. He's been having like the last 6 to 8 games. He's been great. And it's incredible this guy's been on so many teams. He's been on 6, I think. And he's been around the league, but it's just crazy that it seems like all of a sudden he's just kind of found his home, he found his niche with his offense, and it's terrific. When Coleman went down, I was a little worried about that, but most certainly really carried the load. It was awesome. I'm really, really annoyed at the talk of Jimmy G and the lack of passing that he attempted in this game. But it's just ridiculous. There's just no need for him to even throw the ball or waste any.
To me, that was the smartest thing. He didn't even need to throw for 100 yards in the first half. He didn't need to. That amazed the hell out of me. That the fact that Jimmy G is probably the least used weapon. And the thing is that makes it even worse for a lot of teams who are watching, because they're gonna go, because a lot of the Chiefs, they're gonna study that film tape oh man, he didn't even really throw the ball that much in the first half. The running back did the majority of the work for him. And the thing is, they didn't really utilize the running back that much in the divisional round. So yeah. But thing is, like I said, we all know that the Vikings didn't really belong in there with the 49ers that night anyway. That was just a complete shutout and embarrassment. But yeah, anyway, go on, was.
So yeah, but I was thinking that Packers would resort to quick throws, to sort of just short passes, quick passes, just screen, just get Aaron Jones involved, and that wasn't the case. It looked like there wasn't really any sort of attempt to scheme Aaron Jones in there on the side or whatever. And I thought it was just a stupid futile. It cost Rodgers. He got sacked multiple times. Two picks. Had three fumbles in the game.
Yeah. And what did I say about turnovers? What did I say about turnovers? If they turn the ball once, game over.
Yeah, look at this. They had 3 turnovers, I believe, in that game. The Niners had no turnovers. The Niners only had 2 penalties. The team only had 2 penalties and no turnovers. It's going to be hard to beat that team, especially a team as talented as San Francisco.
Right.
The way I look at it, I think Kyle Shanahan, if he doesn't need to run any sort of pass plays, any sort of trick plays, anything like that, if he can keep that kind of playbook in the cup for the big game, and you don't need to waste any plays against Green Bay, then by all means save it and just use it for the Super Bowl, because you didn't need it against Green Bay. I think going into the Super Bowl, he's gonna have something very special lined up against Kansas City. But it was, the Niners are just a bigger, faster team, and I am glad that I would argue. I would say that, with the exception of maybe Baltimore, I think these are probably the 2 teams that should be in the Super Bowl. I think the argument, you can pretty much say that these are probably the 2 best teams in the conference. It isn't a situation, I think, where we have one team that lucked out. I think these are probably the 2 teams that are in the
Yeah. And that's pretty much one of the Niners' biggest strengths is minimizing careless mistakes. I think this year they're probably one of the least penalized teams this year, and giving up have turned over the ball the least. So that's a big contributor to the Niners' success this year, is they don't make a lot of mistakes. They don't make unnecessary mistakes. That's really a big key to their success right there. Minus their talent. I mean, the thing is, we all know that they got talent. But see, I'm proud of the 49ers because they were 4-12 last year, and this year I predicted them to be 8-8, 9-7. That's what. And the thing is, like, I'm proud of them because they completely turned it around. So yeah, big up to them for that. Like I said, we'll see how it goes looking forward because next to the Steelers and of course more recently the Patriots, the Niners are pretty much one of the most successful franchises in the NFL. So yeah, so big up to them for getting back on track. And of course, look at what the Niners and the Chiefs have been through. With the Niners, with like I said, with them going to the Super Bowl 7 years ago, and then them coming up short, them losing Kaepernick, and them trying to find a stable quarterback, them losing Frank Gore, and then Jimmy G getting hurt at the beginning of last year, and then going 4-12, and then having to rebuild and everything. So they have been through a lot. And then Kansas City, they've equally been through as much, with a lot of people would argue that they kind of got screwed out of the Super Bowl last year with a couple of shiesty calls, and then losing Tyreek Hill, almost losing Tyreek Hill, losing Kareem Hunt, and the various other injuries. So both of these guys, they do deserve to be there because of what they've been through just the last year alone.
The rebuild for both of these teams has been pretty insane, especially on the 49ers side.
Yes.
The 49ers, man, they've been defense for I don't know how many years. And they finally said, all right, we're good to go with Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
And they just steamrolled through a lot of these teams. If you look at their offense, a lot of their offensive players are just the kind of guys you wouldn't expect to see the production out of. I think I told someone that Emmanuel Sanders would be a great addition to that team and help them get to the Super Bowl. And they said I was crazy. So, shout out to that now because Emmanuel Sanders has been showing up on that team. He's been a good leader for that receiver core, and he's been pretty prominent in those trick plays that they've been dishing out. So I expect to see him more involved in the Super Bowl again.
Yeah.
We have come full circle because again the Chiefs and the Niners played a few years ago, and that's the game where Jimmy G injured his ACL, tore his ACL, out for the whole season in that game, and then bounced back through this year. Comes back and has a preseason game, looks very sharp in the preseason game against Kansas City. And now we're back to the actual Super Bowl where both teams will meet. Had it not been for that injury, the Niners would not have had as poor of a season, and they might not have gotten Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
So, and again, Nick Bosa has definitely been a spark plug for that front seven. And it's definitely a key contributor to the reason why the Niners are 13-3 right now. This has been an unbelievable run. The Niners, if they can pull this off, beat the Chiefs, stop the Chiefs offense, I think they'll be only the second team to win the Super Bowl the year after losing 12 games. You guys know that they?
Yeah.
Who's the other team? That the Giants?
Yeah, I think it was the Giants.
No, it was not the Giants. Actually, you want me to give me one more go?
Okay, what was the question again?
Well, they're the
team that lost 12 games the year before and then won the Super Bowl next year.
12 games the year before and won the Super Bowl. That's like, it could have been the Bucks, right?
Was it the Buccaneers?
No, it was the St. Louis Rams.
Oh, wow.
St. Louis Rams with Kurt Warner.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I forgot about that. That was back in 99. That was 20 years ago. So, yeah. Damn, that's 20 years ago? It's been that long already? Yeah. Wow. But all right, fellas, let's break down these superlatives. Like I said, this was a hell of a year, man. We saw a lot of things that we never thought we'd see. But you know what? This year pretty much marked the end of an era and the start of a new one. I mean, come on, look at who we've got. We've got Lamar Jackson. We've got Patrick Mahomes. We've got Eli Manning just announced his retirement. it's pretty much the Patriots dynasty is pretty much coming to a close. Phillip Rivers, he's probably not going to be in with the Chargers next year. Big Ben's getting old. That 2004 class is starting to die out, man. I'm glad. Thing is, like I said, it's the new era we're seeing, and I'm glad that we're seeing it. Yeah. All right. Who's you guys MVP for this year? I might have to slightly go with Russell Wilson. Maybe I want to go Lamar Jackson, but But thing is that the only reason why I might go slightly with Russell Wilson because even though the Seahawks lost to the Packers, he looked better than his game. But yeah, I'll give it my slight edge to Russell Wilson. Flip, who you got as your MVP for this year?
For MVP, I usually just go regular season, and it was still close between Russell Wilson and Lamar, but I think Lamar Jackson is just way more important to his team than Russ. I think with Russ, they kind of lean towards the run more, and Russ kind of benefits from it because he's more efficient. Lamar, I think he just kind of showed out with pure athletic talent.
Right.
I think he ran the ball great. He was part of a scheme that worked for him. When he had to air it out, he struggled sometimes, but the stats show us that he was efficient most of the time to the air. So I kind of have to lean towards Lamar, but Russ did have a great season. I think he was left on for MVP, so I can't even read that. So I got to lean towards Lamar.
All right, Waz, who's your league MVP for this year?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Lamar Jackson. I think he just had an incredible start to finish in regular season for sure. Russ was right there with him. I felt like for the first 10 to 12 games, and I felt like Wilson kind of like tailed off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But Lamar just had, I think, from start to finish, like a really great season. Granted, they didn't really play in the last game, but it was just he broke the regular season record for rushing yards for a quarterback.
Yeah.
He put up stupid stats. He's gonna completely flip the whole fantasy football draft next year. He might be like the first QB in a long while to actually go one overall. So I think that kind of season is like transcendent, and I think it's starting to kind of pave the way more for more mobile quarterback. I don't feel like it's this day and age now. You kind of somebody with legs. There's not really many quarterbacks that teams are going to be looking for now. They're only mostly like stationary statues. Yeah, I think the guys like the paraphrase of it, you look at someone like Eli Hayes, retire. I think that's kind of a dying breed. I think teams nowadays you need quarterbacks that can throw and run. Like you saw with Patrick Mahomes, that kind of mobility. What we've seen obviously with Russell Wilson, now Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Incredible. But yeah, I think Lamar Jackson, the season overall, the team finished with a 1 lead, 14-2. He proved a lot of people wrong about his abilities. I just think overall that he had just a start to finish a great regular season. So I would definitely have it as my MVP.
All right. Now, Defensive Player of the Year. My two picks were between Nick Bosa and T.J. Watt. Now, I broke down my Defensive Player of the Year pick I broke it down into two different things. One, stats, how many fumbles this guy forced, how many sacks this guy get, how many tackles, how many interceptions. You can break it down in that category, or you can break it down in this category. You can break it down as to player impact. Like, is the player's impact did his defense did the presence of that one player change the whole game? Did it make that entire defense better? Did the presence of that one guy change the entire game? That's my two big things for Defensive Player of the Year. Do you want stats, or do you want their contribution? Like, is their presence, their impact, is it felt just as much off the field as it is on the field? I'm slightly going to have to go with T.J. Watt on this one. Flip, who is your Defensive Player of the Year?
I gotta go with Gilmore on this one.
Stephon Gilmore? He slowed down in the last half of the year, though. in my opinion. But go
I
on.
don't think he slowed down. I think he was still going strong. It's just that defense was overall that defense got beat, but him himself he didn't get beat. He was solid. I think he had one bad game late in the season against somebody. I think it was I forget, but he had one bad season or game. But overall, throughout the entire season, he was shadowing the top receiver for every team. He was shutting them down. Did his job. I can't fault him, man. Like when you go out there and you shut down the top receiver and you show that you're the best player on that team, the best corner in the league, I gotta go with you for defensive play. But yeah, you can go with a lot of players stats wise. I think there was a lot of guys that showed that they were strong picks for defensive player of the year this year. Like I think Shaq Barrett, he could have been defensive player of the year to be honest. But once again, like that Tampa team, it wasn't the greatest defensively, but he had like 20 sacks this season.
Yeah.
So it's like when you look at it, overall their defenses weren't that great, but their personal performances were pretty damn good. So I got to go with that one too.
All right. All right, Waz, what was your pick for Defensive Player of the Year?
Yeah, my pick. I look at stats a little bit, then I got to look at typically kind of like how the defensive player impacted the general team, impacted the general defense, just in terms of their ability to affect the run, the pass, whatever position they might play in, and as I look at the overall team and how the team defensively performed. So I kind of actually lean towards guys like Gilmore, and how I mentioned Bosa, and I'm going to be very, very biased in saying I think Bosa really should be looked at as definitely a player that should be the defensive player of the year. I was going back and forth between Gilmore and Bosa, but I'm just going to be really, really hardy and say Bosa because I just think he was essentially just such a key in that 49ers defense. Like the Niners defense was always.
Because look at how the Niners performed last year versus this year. So yeah, I'm not mad at you for that.
Yeah, exactly. Like the Niners defense has been on the cusp for a little bit. They've been on the cusp for the last couple years, and I always said how I felt like the Niners defense was just going to marinate for a little bit, and they were going to come around and be a solid team. But the defensively, then when Nick Bosa showed up, he was just a monster, and he just seemed like just far above, like very athletic, more athletic than other guys in the opposite end. He just did a lot of things, man. Sacks, or fumble, you got a pick here and there. It was just, I feel like he impacted the game. And personally, I feel like you could argue could be both defensive and rushing. But I'll just be hardy and I'll say he is for sure my defensive player of the year, if not a runner-up, possibly go.
All right. Now, this is going to be an interesting category. Who do you guys have for the comeback player of the year? As in, last year, they were okay or below average or probably non-existent last year, and then they came back and just showed the hell off. Flip, who's your comeback player of the year for this year?
Comeback player of the year?
For mine is Jimmy G.
I think mine would have to be Chris Godwin. I think he had a solid year last year, but this was like a breakout year for him. This is the year we see like, okay, it's his third year, and this is the receiver we're going to see from now on because he was ridiculous going now. It's just, I don't know. I think it surprises a lot of people to see him topping the receiver list for addition touchdowns for I think most of the year, to be honest. So when I think someone who like improved and really came back and just like showed everyone, hey, I do this good, I gotta go with this guy.
All right, Waz, what's your pick for comeback player of the year?
the team overall rallied behind him. Seemed like they generally liked him and played better for him than someone like Mariota. And he took that team to the AFC Championship after kind of failing with Miami and looking like a bust for Miami. Came back around, had a terrific second half of the season. But yeah, I think it's fair to say I would put him as my comeback player of the year.
Yeah. But see, the reason why my pick is why Jimmy G is my pick. Like I said, he was injured last year. Like, that pretty much was the beginning of the end for Jimmy. Like, was an all boy. Jimmy G went down. They don't have anybody to rely on. They were pretty much in tank mode as soon as he went out. Like, oh man, nope, he's down. And a lot of people weren't really too big on him going to the 49ers anyway. But I mean, and the thing is, he actually showed up and showed out this year. So I mean, the thing is, I kind of slept on him a little bit myself. I'll admit, I'm like, him going to the 40. I mean, him being a backup to Tom Brady, and like him going from being a backup to the Patriots to being a starter for the 49ers. Like, I don't know if this is going to work out as well as people think it's going to work out. But the thing is, not only did it work out, it exceeded expectations. It exceeded mine too. And the thing is, he came back from an ACL injury. ACLs are usually career-altering / career-ending injury. And not only did he come back, he came back better. And there's not really a lot of players who can say that they do that. So that's the reason why he's my comeback player of the year.
25-3 as a starter. 25-3 as a starter. I think he has the best starting record for any quarterback. And in the Super Bowl, you have to remember this guy. He came onto a 49ers team when he was traded. The Niners were like 1-9.
Yeah.
When he came on for the Niners, it was like an 0-9 or 1-9 team. He won all the starts for the Niners that year. Then the next year comes, gets injured week 3. He's out the entire season. The Niners finished 4-12 that year, with him basically out for the whole year. Comes back to a team that was 4-12 the year before,
yeah,
and they're 13-3. So he took essentially a 1-9 team, made them 6-10, and then he took a team that went 4-12 the year before, and they went 13-3.
Yeah.
So I think you can argue, okay, because it's not like people say, oh, he's got such a great team around him. But look what the team's been doing. Look what the team's done without him. The team's not that far, barely different from the last 2 years. The team is potentially the same. It's got a few pieces left, but the team generally is just a more mature version of the team than it was a few years ago.
Yeah.
And he turned it around.
Yeah.
So, you're right. Yeah. It's actually not a bad thing. He could very well be up for that comeback play.
Yeah. So that tank was a blessing in disguise. You guys tanking last year was a blessing in disguise. I'm gonna go ahead and say that right now. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Now, who do you guys have for the rookie of the year? Flip, who's yours?
I think it was Josh Jacobs. I think he's going to get offensive rookie.
Your offensive rookie of the year.
It was Josh Jacobs here. I was thinking Kyler Murray, but I was looking back, and the Raiders almost made it to the playoffs this year. I think the piece that did that the most for them was Josh Jacobs. He was that running force that they needed to kind of open up the passing game for Derek Carr. It worked out a bit. He was injured a bit, but I mean, I think that's kind of what hurt the Raiders' chances of making it to the playoffs was him getting injured. But when he was on that field, he was killing it. He had a great season in the games he played. I think he made the 1,000-yard mark, or he was close to it. But yeah, I kind of have to give him rookie of the year.
All right. Waz, who's your offensive rookie of the year?
Yeah, I'll be a little contrarian. I'll go with AJ Brown. I think he had a terrific season on the Titans. Came up out of nowhere. Had over 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, and again, he's playing with William Mariota and Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
I think if the Titans need to upgrade a little bit, slightly more at the quarterback position, perform even better. I think he had a hell of a year. You could argue, I think he might be as a rookie, he might be in the top 10 conversation for sure as one of the 10 best receivers. I think if you just go down the line, and I think he's already up there in that conversation after one season. Josh Jacobs also not. I wouldn't be mad on that. I think the Raiders were really nothing. Derek Carr, he's kind of a abysmal mess, but Jacobs was pretty consistent.
Oh yeah, Miles Sanders. Don't forget about Miles Sanders either.
Sure, Miles Sanders, Debo, Samuel,
Yeah,
Eric McLaurin on the Redskins. Looks favorite player at name dropper so often, but I'm gonna go with AJ Brown.
Yeah, for me, it's a toss up between AJ Brown and Miles Sanders. The thing is, AJ Brown just stuck out a little bit more to me because he made that Titans offense just a little bit more explosive because like they're not as one dimensional as people thought they were with the running game. Like AJ Brown, man, like he really. I mean, especially what game he shut out to me in when everybody was expecting the Browns to beat the Titans, and AJ Brown just showed the hell off in that game. Yeah. So I mean, for me, that's what did it for me, and the fact that he was, he didn't really have a lot of drops, he didn't really have a lot of fumbles, and he was more or less healthy for most of the year too. Like I said, for me, it's AJ Brown, but a close second for me is Miles Sanders. Kyler Murray will be bringing up. Well, let's see. My third would be Josh Jacobs, and my fourth would be Kyler Murray. So those are my top four right there. Okay, who do you guys have your pick for the defensive rookie of the year? Mine is obviously Nick Bosa. Like I said, I didn't really even need to go over his superlatives, his stats over this past year. Like I said, that tank from the previous year for the 49ers was a blessing in disguise. They knew what they were doing when they picked Nick Bosa. They're like, okay, Joey Bosa's already on this other team, so we go ahead and just pick his younger brother Nick. So yeah, that was my defensive rookie of the year. Flip, who's yours?
I was thinking between Max Crosby on the Raiders and Nick Bosa, and I was kind of leaning towards Max Crosby just because I think Nick Bosa has help on the line more than Max Crosby, but I kind of got to go with Nick Bosa here, just because I think he did make a bigger presence. I think his pressures on the quarterback were bigger. I think he was that force that helped the 49ers defense more. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I gotta go with Nick Bosa here. I think he was that thing. I think he was that piece that pushed the 49ers to where they are now.
All right.
But yeah, I gotta go on this.
All right, Waz, who's your defensive rookie of the year?
I got Bosa as my defensive player, so for sure he's gonna be defensive rookie. I think I'm really looking forward to seeing that occurs. But yeah, it's Bosa. For reasons I mentioned before, for Flip saying the same about him, I just think he definitely. Without a shadow of a doubt, should be the rookie for sure. He could definitely argue he might not win the defensive player, but I think he definitely is head and shoulders. Obviously, you got guys like Devin Bush, Josh Allen on the Jack. But I'm gonna lean on my boy Bosa.
Yeah, definitely. All right, and pretty much like I said, with the 2019 season coming to a close, now what is the 2020 season? What was the? Man, it's for me. It's got to be a toss up between Jim Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin. Jim Harbaugh is obvious. I mean, him going they made the playoffs 2 straight years in a row, and they moved on from Joe Flacco. And the Ravens, they're normally known for being most of a defensive team, but they switched. Okay, the league is changing. We can't be. It's not really that much of a defensive league anymore. So they switched mostly from a defensive scheme to an offensive scheme, and I think that's where Harbaugh's strengths lie. So yeah, he's pretty much one of the candidates, top two, top three. And my other one, like I said, for the Steelers is Mike Tomlin, because a lot of people felt like that once Big Ben went down, that was it for the Steelers. They were going to be pretty much in tank mode. But don't get me wrong, because the Steelers defense bailed them out from a lot of losses, even though it ultimately came out not being enough at the end. But Mike Tomlin, he didn't make the necessary adjustments where they count. But he's mostly a defensive-minded coach, to be honest. But yeah, and the thing is, Mike Tomlin's greatest strength, also his biggest weakness, is he takes a lot of risks. I think besides Pete Carroll and besides maybe a couple of other quarterbacks, a couple other coaches in the league, he probably goes for it on fourth down more than any other coach. So yeah, but a lot of those risks, he took paid off, and some of them didn't. And hell, a lot of people around this time last year were calling for his job, because a lot of people were like, well, I think he was either last year or the year before. Where it's like, well, there's no sense. It doesn't make any sense how you can have Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, Ben Roethlisberger, and a whole bunch of other pieces that not make the Super Bowl, or at least the AFC Championship. But you can argue. I mean, like I said, you guys can make that argument all you want, but I mean, he made the necessary adjustments. And I think he should be a top two candidate for Coach of the Year myself. But Flip, who you got for Coach of the Year?
Coach of the Year, man.
Kyle Shanahan, he's one of them too. But yeah, go ahead.
I gotta go with Harbaugh. I think he found a way to make Lamar Jackson into the quarterback of the future for that franchise.
Yeah.
They went 13-3, I think, or 14-2. And I think I gotta give him credit for that. It was really good for him. It was a strong year for that team, and I could think for Shanahan. I just think it's kind of leaned towards Harbaugh just because of all the hype from Lamar Jackson and how he built that team. So I got to go with Harbaugh on this.
All right, Waz, who's your Coach of the Year?
It was so funny. I really overlooked my own man. I really overlooked Kyle Shanahan. I kept thinking in my mind, it's possible. I kept thinking it was Tomlin. It was Harbaugh. I really kind of overlooked it. And obviously, with the Tennessee kid again, there's Vrabel.
Yeah, Mike Vrabel.
For sure. But yeah, I think looking back and overall, you know what? I'm gonna go be biased again. I'm gonna go with my man Kyle Shanahan.
I'm not mad at that, because look at where they were last year and look at where they are now.
4-12 team with the quarterback coming back off an injury that ended this whole season. Again, this is a quarterback that's still really kind of fresh. He really hasn't had a full season.
And not to mention, look at the schedule. Look at you guys' schedule that you had. You guys had one of the tougher schedules this year. Come on, the Packers, the Rams twice, the Steelers, the Seahawks twice. Y'all had one of the tougher schedules this year.
Yeah, not to mention we still have the Ravens. We had the Saints in New Orleans.
Yeah.
We had a hell of a tough. We really had a tough schedule, but we still, we pulled it out at 13-3.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, it just made pieces work. You took guys like Mostert, made Mostert, no name. We still lost. We spent one of our big free agent signings 2-3 years ago was Jerick McKinnon, and you get to really see Jerick McKinnon play in the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is the guys where you just look at the receivers beforehand, and then just there's nothing really to stop that. We put up the Niners only weapon with George Kittle, but now it's the Niners have a really decent weapon. They have a really good set of weapons,
right,
all across the board. And I think a lot of that is the offense game that chance.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not upset at that because of where they came from. So he definitely does have a case for top 5, if not top 3, candidates for Coach of the Year. All right, now for our team, our respective team seasons going into 2020. Flip, what changes do you expect to see your Chargers go through in the season? I mean, yeah, coming up in the 2020 season.
It's gonna be rough, man. I'm hoping that the draft goes right well. They have those drafting a quarterback at number 6. I'm hoping by the time the draft comes around, there's a deeper pickup at quarterback that's better for us.
Mm-hmm.
Or some quarterback is slated to fall down the board.
Yeah.
So we can. I think I want us to trade back and take 2 first rounders at least, or maybe some more picks in the second round or something. Just build our team. And I don't think Philip Rivers is coming back. I think he's going to probably Tampa Bay or Miami. They're rumored to have Tom Brady coming to the Chargers.
Yeah.
That ain't happening. I don't know.
We'll see.
But we just need to fix our O-line and fix our defensive linemen, defensive interior, and our linebackers. So I think in our draft, we need to focus on those points. And if we're going to take Tom Brady, that's what we definitely need to focus on, because that's going to be a team that's built to win right away.
Right.
And we have the pieces to win right away. We're missing a couple defensive fixes, and our whole line just needs to get it together. It's rough. So that's what I see my team doing in the offseason. If it goes to a positive in the director season, right, to the Chargers, you guys might make it to the Super Bowl. Not a lot.
Yeah. All right, Waz, what do you see? Regardless of whether the Niners win the Super Bowl or not, what do you see the Niners doing to improve going forward? Because you guys got to think about it. Like the NFC West, that's probably one of the more dangerous divisions in the league.
No, it is. Obviously, the Seahawks are there. The Cardinals might be coming up, depending on any sort of improvements Kyler Murray made.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams are kind of in a weird limbo. I feel like it really kind of depends on the health of Todd Gurley. If Gurley gets right, that team can kind of pick things back up. But I feel like if they don't, I don't know if you can rely on Jared Goff as the weapon. Even with the names on that defense. But I thought the Rams are in a weird limbo. But you're right. The defense, that whole division is a really tough division. I think San Francisco, I think it's hard. I think obviously you're going to want to look at some of the key points in the secondary. I think they got to get rid of Witherspoon, who keeps getting burned every single time. I'm glad they put in Mosley over it. Once Witherspoon got burned by Diggs on that touchdown against Minnesota, he was out. Mosley was there. Mosley's been balling ever since.
Mm-hmm.
Richard Sherman's getting up there in age. He's probably got a couple years left in him. But you're gonna want to get someone in there to replace him. I'm not sure. I like the running back by committee. I think it's more reliable if they have three or four running backs that you can kind of stream on. Most of the time, we don't seem to see a team win that has one consistent big running back.
Yeah.
I feel like we can put a lot of money into a running back, but I feel like it's a waste. I feel like you really could. A lot of teams win nowadays with a handful of running backs, and you kind of put money in other places. So I don't think teams like the Cowboys or the Giants that might be investing heavily in the running backs are in a good spot. I just think it's interesting. When Niners are in a weird position where I'm looking at certain positions and I don't really know so much about where they really kind of need to improve. I like the way that it's set up. It's set up for the long term. I guess you can get another Chiefs at wide receiver, maybe.
Yeah.
But I mean, Debo's going to be better next year. I mean, Anderson is a little bit older in age, so we can't rely on him too long. But yeah, maybe another receiver. I mean, again, continue to bolster the defensive line and the offensive line. But I'm pretty fine on the Niners staying put and not tinkering too much with their roster.
Yeah. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
Mm. Now, as far as my Pittsburgh Steelers, like I said, I've made a separate video about this. Big Ben will be 38 years old this year. Really, in football years, he's like 52 because look at all the injuries. He's probably out of a quarterback over this last decade. He's probably one of the quarterbacks who's taken some of the most damaging hits and still kept going. And like I said, we've lost a lot of key pieces in the past 2 or 3 years. We've lost Le'Veon Bell. We've lost Martavis Bryant. We've lost Antonio Brown. We've even lost some of our secondary pieces like Jesse James and Eli Riders. And the thing is, a lot of our other guys, I know, like, that's championship material right there. But the thing is, like, a lot of our younger guys, this is what the Steelers do. The Steelers, we never really try to we never really try to pick up anybody who's a veteran, especially if they're a wide receiver or a running back. We always try to draft younger and develop. And the thing is, I will give kudos to the Steelers for that. The thing is, if there's two things the Steelers know how to do, they know how to draft running backs, and they damn sure know how to draft wide receivers. Oh yeah, and they also know how to draft they know how to draft linebackers too. That's pretty much what the Steelers build off of. Like I said, coaching. Mike Tomlin's not going anywhere, so all the angry Steelers fans can stop with that crap right there. Mike Tomlin, I mean, the thing is, like I said, he takes a lot of chances, takes a lot of risks, but the thing is, he needs to be smarter with the risks that he takes. You can say that about any coach, but yeah, he needs to be a lot smarter, taking risks. Defensively speaking, the defense for the Steelers this year, they showed up and they showed out. But the thing is, they can't do everything. They really can't. They're top 5 defense this year, but the thing is, like, when your defense is, I mean, there's only 60 minutes in the game. The defense can only do so much, especially when the offense is on the field for a total of 15 minutes and the defense is on the field for 45 minutes. The defense can only do so much. So there needs to be a healthy balance as to what they're doing. Their running game problems. Like I said, the Steelers have been known for their running game. One thing they need to do is they need to pick a solid running back. James Conner, I love the guy, but he needs to be second or third string. They need to either draft a new running back or they need to put Benny Snell. They need to have Benny Snell Jr. start. That's what needs to happen. They need to go ahead and cut Ryan Switzer. They cut Artie Burns already. The only thing I really need to see is they need to heavily consider another quarterback. They probably need to get Juju Smith-Schuster some help. They probably do either need to get a veteran. They either need to probably get a free agent veteran wide receiver or get a younger one. Because, like I said, Deontay Johnson, he stepped up this year for the Steelers as far as the wide receiving core. He really did. And James Washington and Deontay Johnson both stepped up this year, and I'm proud of them for that. But I just don't think that Juju Smith-Schuster is going to be that number one wide receiver leader that the Steelers need. That role went to Antonio Brown. We see Antonio Brown deteriorate right before our very eyes. But the Steelers, they got a lot of work to do. I don't know. Like I said, maybe they'll make the playoffs in 2020. Maybe they won't. But it all depends on if Ben Roethlisberger is healthy. Because if he goes down one more time, it's over for him. He just needs to go ahead and just hang it up and retire. I feel like that he should go ahead and just be. We need to. We probably need to get another wide receiver. I mean, we need to get another quarterback in the draft, and Big Ben just needs to be backup. Kind of like how they did with Daniel, how the Giants did with Daniel Jones and Eli Manning. I feel like that's what we need to do. But yeah, you guys got any? You guys got any other final thoughts tonight?
I hope the Pro Bowl is actually interesting this year. I doubt it will be, but
yeah.
Yeah, football season's almost over. We need some more football.
Yeah, for real. Hopefully the XFL whets our appetites, but we'll see about that.
Yeah, XFL is actually pretty interesting. I saw the rules for it. It looked pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Yeah. All right, Waz, any final thoughts tonight?
No, man, no problem. Pro Bowl should be interesting.
Mm.
I'm not even paying attention to it, actually. It's still in Orlando?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shoot, that's only like a 2-hour drive. I still don't even really think that. I still never even make it think. It's like the trip down there, but only the big thing out well. But it's just, I don't know. I don't know what they got to do to liven that whole weekend up. I still feel like they're lacking. They're falling behind. Like it's like the NBA All-Star Weekend, like the NFL really needs to revamp or something to get interesting. But I could almost forget the football ever happened. Like it almost doesn't exist, honestly.
Yeah. Well, all right, that'll do it for this week's episode of the podcast, the AFC NFC Championship recap. And you guys do not want to miss next week because we're going to marinate on it. We're going to give our final thoughts, and we are going to give you guys our Super Bowl prediction. As always, Flip, Wise, thank you guys for helping me host the show. I appreciate it, and we'll be back next week for the season finale of the podcast. All right, thanks. Also, Facebook, YouTube, thank you guys for watching. We'll be back next week. Peace.